The annual summit of the World Economic Forum has kicked off. Politicians, business leaders, activists from around the world are gathering in Davos. The Swiss ski resort town is hosting that summit after a gap of nearly 2.5 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tensions over the Russian invasion of Ukraine have, of course, been dominating the discussions there. This year, organizers have excluded Russia from the summit as the Western powers continue to impose sanctions against Moscow. 2,500 leaders from politics, business, civil society, media are attending that crucial meeting. Indian Commerce Minister and Petroleum Minister also in Davos for the summit. Other world leaders, including the European Union Chief Ursula von der Leyen, the NATO Secretary General, the German Chancellor, the US Climate Envoy John Kerry, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, all of them are in attendance as well. The theme this year is working together, restoring trust. And the aim of the meeting is to find solutions to the world's most urgent and pressing challenges, including the pandemic, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and climate change. And our business editor, Sumit Chaturvedi, who is in Davos getting us all those updates, earlier spoke to India's petroleum minister. This is that exclusive conversation.
World Economic Forum's annual summit has kicked off in Davos. It is for the first time in 2 years. It is happening in person. India is also having a contingent there, and we are today joined by Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, India's petroleum minister, who is leading that contingent here. So thanks for talking to us. First of all, how have you been your stay in WEF? How discussions, what were they, and how have you now tried to sell India, or as far as energy is concerned, what discussions have taken place with investors and other stakeholders?
Forum's major preoccupation is with the number of crises which are in motion. There is at the center of it, I would say, an energy crisis. And that energy crisis is anchored in the fact that if you have oil at $110 plus per barrel, then that's a warning sign, not just for recession in the industrialized democracies, in those economies, but even in developing countries. You see what's happened in countries around India. But more than that, I think even the United States is facing the highest levels of inflation experienced in the last 50 years. The United Kingdom has the steepest fall in living standards. Now, navigating through this crisis, and you have to do it without exacerbating and accelerating the other crises, because you want to be able to do it. You also want to be able to make the transition because of climate change factors. You also want to make sure that there's an abundant supply of food, so fertilizer prices become important. So you have to navigate all these.
And our correspondent Sumit Chaturvedi is now joining us live on the broadcast from the venue in Davos. Sumit, thanks very much for being here with us. We were playing out that interaction that you had with the Indian minister. Now, the COVID-19 crisis caused that pause in the proceedings of the World Economic Forum. It's taking place after a gap of over 2 years. And the pandemic, along with the Russia-Ukraine war, of course, dominating the discussions there. And today, Volodymyr Zelensky's address stole the headlines. Take us through the key takeaways.
To begin with, first of all, Ukraine-Russia war is clearly dominating all the discussions, debate, and all the meetings that are happening here. It is the biggest cause of concern. Today, Ukraine President Zelensky was addressing WEF Forum, though virtually. So everybody wants to, in a way, know when this crisis is going to end or which way it is headed. That is very important, because based on these events, the crude is reacting, inflation is there because wheat exports can't happen from Ukraine. So based on that, a number of discussions, they took place today. The main dominating theme is definitely Russia-Ukraine war. But it's not just that. Well, it's being held after a gap of 2 years. It's the first event in 2 years, in-person event, WEF Annual Summit in 2 years. So other problems are also facing the economy. It's, for me, fifth time, but never have I seen so much of tensions on the faces of CEOs and all of them who are discussing with each other, or maybe policymakers, what is the way forward, because no one knows what is the way forward. Stock markets have crashed in many countries, including India. The growth is still there in India. India will still be the fastest growing economy in the world, but in many countries there's a crisis brewing, and in countries like Sri Lanka they're also already facing a big economic crisis. Pakistan is also facing. So in light of all that, the important discussions have become all the more important, how to take the world out of this kind of slow recovery path to a faster recovery path, especially at a time when there are so much uncertainties, volatility, the crude price is rising, inflation, war, everything happening. Never have I ever seen this kind of uncertainty or volatility. So today discussions also, they were focused on. We spoke to Hardeep Singh Puri, Petroleum Minister. We just heard that India is also here trying to hard sell the country as an investment destination. Chief ministers of many states are also here. They are also trying to hard sell their states as good investment destinations. We have recovered in the last 2 years to some extent. Economically, damage hasn't been that much, but going forward, that damage has to be controlled and growth path momentum has to be maintained. So keeping all that in mind, well, the meetings and discussions, they kept on happening. Supply chain issues were also discussed because supply chain has been disturbed twice or thrice majorly in the last 2 years. Chip crisis has also been faced. So keeping all that in mind, it's a forum where the macro on a large scale, on a big macro scale discussions happen with ministers, with the CEOs, business leaders, policy makers. All of that's happening. That's what keeping the whole thing warm and going. Though this time the snow is not there at the peak, the Swiss Alp peaks, but yes, enough of that is being compensated by the debates and discussions that are happening here.
And we will, of course, keep coming back to you as and when we have further updates on that front. Thanks very much for now, Sumit Chaturvedi, getting us those updates from Davos. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.